You know, when we think about the discovery of America, one name pretty much always pops into our heads. But what if the history books we all grew up with are missing the first and maybe the most incredible chapter of that story? We're about to dig into the hard evidence for a European arrival that happened almost 500 years before we were all taught.
In 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. Come on, we all know that rhyme, right? It's drilled into us. But what about the year 1021? Because that's the year modern science has actually confirmed Vikings were in North America. We're talking nearly 5 full centuries earlier. So why is one date legendary and the other, well, just a historical footnote?
These numbers right here tell the whole story. According to YouGov, a whopping 89% of people recognize the name Christopher Columbus. But Leif Erikson? It's basically a coin toss, only about half. And that huge gap in our collective memory? That's exactly what we're going to investigate today. Why does one explorer get all the credit?
Okay, let's start our historical detective work. The central claim we're looking at is pretty simple. Europeans visited the Americas long before the history books usually give them credit for. And we are going to follow the evidence step by step.
So here it is, plain and simple. The claim is that a Norse explorer named Leif Erikson, son of the famous Eric the Red, landed in North America nearly 500 years before Columbus ever set sail. Now, for centuries, this was just written off as legend, a cool Viking fairy tale. But what happens when we actually start looking for real proof?
Right. So the first pieces of evidence we've got aren't official ship logs or some kind of royal decrees. Nope, there's something way more compelling, I think. The epic Icelandic sagas. These were the grand, sweeping stories of the Norse people.
See, the stories of these incredible voyages were passed down orally for generations, told around fires for hundreds of years before they were finally written down around the year 1200. 2 of these sagas are absolutely key to our investigation: the saga of the Greenlanders and the saga of Eric the Red. But like in any good mystery, the eyewitness accounts, well, they don't quite match up. And this is where the stories start to diverge. The saga of the Greenlanders claims another explorer, a guy named Bjarni Hjorjolfsson, was actually the first to spot the new lands when his ship was blown off course. Leif Erikson apparently heard his story later, bought his ship, and then launched an intentional expedition. But the saga of Eric the Red tells a totally different tale. In that version, Leif just stumbles upon North America by accident after a storm blew him off course. He was on a mission from the King of Norway to bring Christianity to Greenland. So was it a planned expedition or just a lucky accident? The texts kind of leave us guessing.
But even with these different origin stories, both sagas agree on what Leif and his crew actually found. First, they landed on this desolate, rocky place they named Helluland, which means flat rock land. Makes sense. Next, they came to a forested coast they called Markland, or Forest Land. And finally, they reached this lush, green area where they found, get this, wild grapes growing, which prompted Leif to name it Vinland or Wineland.
So, we have these incredible stories, right? But are they just that? Stories? For centuries, that's exactly what people assumed. So now, we turn to the search for the one thing that could change everything: hard, physical proof, the smoking gun.
And for hundreds and hundreds of years, that's all they were. The sagas were basically looked at as literature, not history. Without a single piece of physical evidence to back them up, Leif's journey to this Vinland just stayed in the realm of folklore.
And then the 1960s happened. After a really long search, a Norwegian explorer named Helgi Ingstad and his archaeologist wife Anne Steen Ingstad made a discovery that would literally rewrite history.
He uncovered the remains of a real Norse settlement at a place called Lance Os Meadows, way up on the northern tip of Newfoundland in Canada. The site had the foundations of these timber and sod buildings, and they exactly matched the construction style of Vikings back in Greenland and Iceland. This was it. This was the physical proof of a Norse presence in North America.
But the big question was, when were they there? Well, in 2021, scientists analyzed wood fragments from the site, and they used this amazing technique involving a massive solar storm from the year 993 AD as a sort of cosmic timestamp in the tree rings. The result? The wood was cut by Vikings in the exact year 1021 AD. That gave us a definitive, scientifically proven date for their presence in the Americas. Just incredible. So this just raises a huge practical question, right? How on earth did they pull this off? I mean, crossing thousands of kilometers of the treacherous North Atlantic is hard enough today, but they did it without the most basic piece of navigational tech we all take for granted. That's right, no magnetic compass.
The Viking Age was already over before the compass even arrived in Europe. Their legendary voyages relied entirely on a different and, frankly, a brilliant set of skills.
They used this really sophisticated mix of techniques. First, they used the sun and possibly a legendary sunstone, it's a type of crystal that polarizes light, to find the sun's position even on cloudy days. Second, they literally read nature's map, watching cloud formations over distant land, wave patterns, the flight paths of seabirds. Third, they used dead reckoning, which is basically estimating your position based on your speed and how long you've been traveling. And finally, they practiced latitude sailing, using the height of the midday sun to stay on a consistent east-west course.
So the evidence seems undeniable. Vikings were in America centuries before Columbus. And yet, Leif Erikson still kind of remains in the shadows. This brings us to our final question. What is his legacy today? And why isn't it, well, bigger?
These numbers from YouGov are really telling. Even among the people who've actually heard of him, a clear majority, 53%, just say they don't know what to think. He's like a historical ghost, just a name without a story for most people. He does have a day of recognition here in the US. It's Leif Erikson Day on October 9th. But what's so fascinating is that the date has absolutely nothing to do with his landing. It was chosen to commemorate the arrival of the first ship of Norwegian immigrants to America back in 1825. Maybe that's the key to why he's still a lesser-known figure. Columbus's voyage, for better or worse, started an era of sustained contact and colonization that totally reshaped the world. Erikson's settlement, while a stunning achievement, was temporary. It was like a footprint in the sand that soon washed away.
And so, here we are, back where we started. The proof is literally in the ground. The date is confirmed by science. The story is centuries older than the one we all know by heart. So the question isn't really whether Leif Erikson made it to America. The question is, will our history books ever truly make room for him?